same time, we have Donald Trump firing air traffic controllers, screwing up our national parks, threatening to annex Canada, focusing on all these dumb things, and not just dumb things, unpopular things.
It's something I can do, but a lot of people like it one way, a lot of people like it the other way. It's very even.
No, it is not very even. It's very odd, in fact, and it's not 50-50.
And if something's a 50-50 issue, it's hard to get excited about it. I assume people would like to have more light later, but some people want to have more light earlier because they don't want to take their kids to school in the dark.
That's how you know he's never taken his kids to school.
Ever notice how Trump can't even handle daylight saving time without creating chaos? While you were changing your clocks, his cabinet members Elon Musk and Marco Rubio were busy screaming at each other in meetings. And the best part, Trump had to go on Truth Social to pretend they're actually besties. Jimmy Kimmel just expertly dismantled this whole embarrassing situation. Trump spinning more than the hands on your clock as his administration falls apart over issues everyone else agrees on. Stay tuned to see how Kimmel exposed the ridiculous reality behind Trump's time-changing disaster. Did you know that despite all the divisions in our country, there is one issue on which nearly everyone can find common ground? We need to fix daylight saving time. But you know what? Trump had an entire 4 years to save the day and end this widespread crisis, but he simply was not interested. Jimmy Kimmel, who is fearless when it comes to sharing his genuine emotions, utterly destroyed the idea of leaping ahead. "I despise spring forward so much," Kimmel admitted on his show, going on to say that everyone in his household feels the same way. His wife finds it funny that his children despise it, and his daughter and son also despise it. From what I can see, the Kimmel household is a veritable hate pyramid. The Kimmel family, however, are not the only ones. There is a biannual reordering of the clocks that the majority of Americans despise. 60% of California voters in 2018 wanted to do away with daylight saving time altogether. As far as elections go, that is a landslide. Still, we're still dragging ourselves out of bed in the dark, yearning to know why we feel like zombies for a week, even after all these years. Politicians willfully disregarded a sure victory that would have brought joy to millions of Americans who were suffering from lack of sleep.
Monday after the nightmare known as daylight saving, I know that is I tried something a little different this year. I set my clocks ahead 4 years. It didn't work. I'll tell you something about me. I hate spring forward so much. And this, to me, this is Donald Trump's big opportunity because we woke up this morning. You know, Marco Rubio, a Republican senator at the time, introduced a bill that would eliminate daylight saving 3 years ago. It's called the Sunshine Protection Act. It was passed by unanimous consent, carefully disassembling our DoorDash drivers' Chipotle delivery like we were bomb experts in the Hurt Locker. I was punching in my ATM code with my foot.
Why not focus on a dumb popular thing and do away with this ridiculous clock change twice a year? Kimmel suggested, aptly capturing the situation's absurdity. It would be the same of politicians turning down free popularity points and saying, "No thanks, we'd rather keep doing things people hate." Completely reasonable, isn't it? The most amusing part is that Kimmel said that we should do a poll immediately following the time change, when everyone is exhausted and irritable, and the number of people who support abolishing DST would skyrocket. He assured us that, with the possible exception of those lunatics who get up at 5 a.m., it would be 98-2 in favor of getting rid of daylight. Those who like visiting the DMV are perhaps the only ones who would vote to maintain it. If Trump had won this election, it would have been so simple. Nowadays, Americans argue over everything from masks and immunizations to the veracity of the sky's blueness, but disrupting our rest, that goes against everything that brings us together. Trump wasted time pursuing measures that exacerbated national divisions rather of addressing this straightforward issue. It would be the same of being given the choice between the easiest and hardest question on an exam and opting for the latter. The sarcasm gains even more traction. The Sunshine Protection Act was an attempt by Republican Senator Marco Rubio to address this issue. The bill's unanimous assent in the Senate demonstrates that efforts to abolish the time shift have bipartisan backing. Can you remember the last time the two major parties reached a consensus? Perhaps when pizza was offered in the Capitol cafeteria. Kimmel wasted no time pointing out that Trump should have made more of this easy victory. Trump lavished attention on controversial ideas and tweeted at 3 in the morning, but he paid little attention to a topic that might have garnered him a lot of support. Adding to the humor, Trump seemed to brush off DST as a 50-50 issue, not as if he had forgotten that his administration would have benefited greatly from even a moderate level of support. Daylight saving time would have been the ideal solution for Trump, and this missed opportunity eloquently illustrates why. It boasts bipartisan support, a political rarity. Republicans despise it, conservatives despise it, disliked by independents. Your dog is just as perplexed as everyone else about the unexpected change in feeding times. Trump missed an opportunity to be the hero who restored American sleep because he was too busy to care about something so basic but consequential. Just when we thought Trump couldn't find the time to adjust the clocks, he found a way to let his rich friends fight it out in the Oval Office like it's Monday Night Raw. In the past, dull topics like the economy and foreign policy would be discussed during cabinet meetings. You may say goodbye to those days, my friends. The White House has become a set for a seriously absurd reality show under Trump's administration, the kind that would be terminated after only one episode. Think about this. Entering a high-level government meeting, Elon Musk casually wears the attire of a low-roller gambler. The self-proclaimed tech genius who ruined Twitter with his purchase came across as more of a guy who's about to try selling you a timeshare. The most worrying aspect of this catastrophe, however, was his clothing selections. What followed was more genteel than your family's worst Thanksgiving dinner quarrel. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Musk engaged into an escalating verbal altercation during what ought to have been a solemn cabinet meeting, resembling the intensity of the Real Housewives reunion specials. When Musk began to criticize Rubio for failing to fire enough State Department personnel, the tensions began to boil over. Elon apparently felt Rubio may benefit from emulating Trump's signature "you're fired" demeanor more. It was too much for Rubio. Retaliating against Musk, he claimed that the billionaire had coerced 1,500 workers into retiring early. Witnesses said the government meeting turned ugly when two mature males started shouting "you're lying" at each other for an uncomfortable amount of time, as the outgoing president did nothing but sit there, likely daydreaming about how amazing it would be on television. Just what you would expect from a government that becomes the Celebrity Apprentice White House edition. Rather than addressing issues that matter to the American people, such as avoiding seasonal changes in the clocks, the Trump administration is fostering an unhealthy work environment where billionaires and professional politicians bicker like children vying for a cookie. With his description of the confrontation, Jimmy Kimmel did not miss a beat. Marco's meatloaf, Elon's an even weirder Gary Busey, and they're fighting. Has there ever been an expression that more accurately describes it? In Trump's government, the late-night presenter noted, members prioritize settling personal scores over carrying out their responsibilities as governors. The meeting, which had been scheduled to address matters of national security, soon devolved into an apocalyptic scene reminiscent of a terrible television program. This is the result of putting fun and devotion ahead of skill and knowledge. The result is a cabinet chamber that is less suitable for conducting official government business and more reminiscent of a WWE ring. The most perplexing thing is that the problems faced by regular Americans were totally disregarded while these grown men engaged in their playground brawl. Under Trump's leadership, a poisonous work environment has developed, often prioritizing office drama and personal disputes over serious policy debates. As a result, those with the power to improve the time change system are occupied with bickering over who fired more employees, while Americans toss and turn over a system that nearly everyone acknowledges is foolish and antiquated. Imagine calling a plumber to mend your dripping roof, only to have him spend the entire time bickering with his apprentice over who has the larger toolbox. Like a slot machine in Las Vegas, Trump's panic button flashed up after the toolbox measuring contest. What can a former president with a delicate ego do when his cabinet members are openly bickering instead of working to resolve real issues? Elon and Marco have a great relationship. Was Trump's go-to crisis management tactic, so he took to his favorite tool, his Truth Social account. The absolute worst way to convey the idea that everything is totally fine is to utilize exclamation marks excessively. In politics, it's like a child who claims he didn't eat any cookies but has chocolate all over his face. Perhaps the most revealing element are the 3 exclamation points. It appears that the size of the falsehood is directly related to the number of times Trump exclaims. A single exclamation mark? Perhaps a little exaggeration. Is that 2? Without a doubt, lying. 3 exclamation points though. Trumpese for "this relationship is actually a dumpster fire, but please don't notice." The situation was brilliantly portrayed by Jimmy Kimmel, who never misses an opportunity to criticize Trump's obvious attempts at spin. Trump has to give his pets a constant diet of liberals or they start feeding on each other, he said, drawing attention to the fact that Trump's government appears unable to operate without an outside adversary to unite against. They simply swoop in on each other like ravenous piranhas in a drying pond when they exhaust the pool of Democrats to assault. One thing is clear from Trump's damage control efforts. His leadership style is deceptive instead of dealing with the real issue, which is that his carefully selected staff is unable to collaborate without yelling matches. He simply announces everything to be great and assumes everyone will conform to his fantasy. It's the political equivalent of gaslighting, a tactic that would be great for reality shows but would be disastrous for national leadership. It's telling that Trump brushes off blatant disagreements, even when there are witnesses, as if they never occurred. What you witnessed with your own eyes does not exist in Trump's reality if he denies it. There has been a trend of Trump trying to change reality in real time, which has resulted in a continual cycle of crisis and cover-up, and the cabinet meeting blow-up was no exception. Imagine a weird reality show where the participants are not desperate for fame, but rather billionaires and politicians. That's basically how it plays out. The bizarre character of Trump's government is aptly portrayed by Kimmel's analogy to an odd reality TV encounter, where Marco's Meatloaf, Elon's an even weirder Gary Busey, and they're fighting. This is government for spectators, not for real changemakers. The focus is on the drama and confrontation rather than finding solutions. The true problem lies in it. Who is addressing the real issues confronting Americans while Trump's crew is occupied with fighting and then claiming they aren't fighting? Who is putting their energy toward improving ineffective systems? Daylight saving time is only one example of how top-down dysfunction causes basic solutions that ordinary Americans would benefit from to remain unaddressed. The inability to even recognize fundamental realities is a direct result of the perpetual state of instability brought about by this crisis management style of government. When the administration refuses to acknowledge that two members of cabinet had an altercation that was observed by everyone, how can they possibly handle complicated problems? Asserting that the car is operating normally while attempting to repair a flat tire is analogous. Government paralysis is the result of the spin machine's distortion of the truth. The management of perceptions and the protection of egos take precedence over all other concerns. Denying or redirecting the source of an issue is a common response. Americans are still coping with the fallout from a government that is unable to concentrate on real solutions. All the while, Trump's administration is occupied with denying the existence of apparent conflicts. The Trump administration has defined modern governance, so there you have it. Trump could make nearly all Americans pleased with a single easy remedy, but he is hesitating on that very issue, as Jimmy Kimmel so astutely pointed out. The American people would be better served if politicians and billionaires stopped bickering like contestants on The Bachelor and instead worked on simple solutions that would help average people. The most tragic aspect, everyone is going through the motions of needless time changes and sleep deprivation, but the administration is preoccupied with damage control and reality TV drama to govern effectively. Remember this the next time your alarm goes off an hour earlier than usual and you feel like a walking zombie. This is the outcome of choosing a reality TV host who is more concerned with ratings than actual results. Maybe we'll pick someone who understands that a country isn't the same as a circus the next time around.